Well, hello, folks. How's it going? I hope you guys are all doing really good today. Well, we got this little gem on the bench here tonight. This is a Burswood guitar. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of these, but there you go. I like the headstock a lot. I know this was an inexpensive guitar for the most part, but when I got looking it over, I was really shocked about a few things. First of all, the thickness of the fretboard is thicker than any guitar I own. It just amazed me how much rosewood they put on there. Crazy. It's a full thickness body too. It's not thinned down like the Affinity Squires or anything like that. So already it's got some good things going for it. Plugged it in, sounds amazing. Sounds as good as any Strat that I own. And always, this happens a lot with used guitars, guys. You see this? Still got the plastic on it. That happens a lot. I've obtained many guitars at flea markets and lawn sales and garage sales, and still have the plastic on them. A lot of people don't know that it's even there when they get it new, you know what I mean? They only play it a handful of times, and there you go. So, kind of a cool design. I do like the pick guard. It's kind of neat. The body reminds me kind of like an Ibanez, maybe? I don't know. In any case, it's got a little bit of everything going on. So, I was going to do a setup on it here. And I started out, with good intentions, and I couldn't get the guitar to intonate at all. So I flipped it over and took the back cover off. And I'll show you guys. Now, if you look closely, you see there's three. If I can get this in there and do it. Okay, there's three screws that come through this tremolo block, okay? There's 1, 2, and 3. When I flipped it over, this piece right here was leaned right over hard this way. And I couldn't figure out what was going on because the bridge was lifted off the body quite a lot. Why? What's going on? So I loosened these up. Those were a little bit tight, and I loosened up the screws on the spring claw here, and I still couldn't figure it out. So then finally, I unhooked the springs here off the claw, and I was able to move this piece right back and forth like that, and the top part of the tremolo stayed stationary. So I flipped it over and run the saddles forward, and all three of those screws were loose. That's the first time I've ever run into that on a guitar in my life. I'm guessing that was probably right from the factory like that, more than likely. So anyway, I got those tightened up, and we got the bridge sitting just about how I like them. You can pull it back just a touch, but it's loose. I like to keep it as loose as I can and almost close to flat, okay? So anyway, that's something you want to look at in case you're having issues. I've never run into that. This had a looper too, to put an SD card in there. It doesn't work, or at least I can't get it to work. I've changed the battery and tried multiple things with it. So again, this is really more of a video on kind of tech stuff here. So let's get into that a little bit more. Now, I'd like to explain one thing. I've seen a lot of this on YouTube where people are changing their tuners out constantly. The guitar, it won't stay in tune. It won't, 99% of the time, it's not the tuners, okay? It's this right here, the nut, okay? And I'm going to show you a way to check this out. If your guitar, and this happens a ton on acoustic guitars too, so if your guitar's not staying in tune, this is what you do. You want to tune that note to your tuner, bring it up to pitch, okay? Make sure your strings all stretched out good and you've got them all, right where they need to be. These ones aren't stretched yet, but it's good enough to demonstrate what I'm going to show you. Okay, let's say that's right to pitch, right? The string's stretched out as much as it can be. Go behind the nut, push down a couple times, hit that note again, and that should be right on the money on your tuner. And you can try this a couple times. If it's flat, maybe it stretched it. So get it back up to pitch, go behind the nut, bend the string a couple times, thump it again. That should be right on the money. If it's not on the money, after your strings are stretched, if that's not right on the money and it doesn't come right back to pitch, then you need to widen your nut slot out and make sure they're filed at an angle. I've seen this time and time again. Acoustic guitars too, if you think about it, guys, usually you're running bigger gauge strings on your acoustics. The nut's probably a little tighter in the slot. It's a lot of the issue, trust me. I've pulled my hair out for years messing with guitars and finally figured out, it's usually not the tuners. Back in the day, they made some really cheesy tuners. I agree. We all know it. Nowadays, you see a lot of inexpensive tuners that look like this, okay? And those work pretty good, for the most part. And just remember, you can always, if you do have this style of tuner, you can always tighten these screws up. Just grab a hold of the tuner button and then put a screwdriver in there and try not to let it spin between your fingers and tighten the screws up. And that'll keep them tight so they don't slip. Most of the time they're not gonna, okay? Usually that's not the issue, like I said. So other than that, this is what I normally will do is I'll make sure I start right there. I want to make sure that's right. And, as long as this is somewhat close, I may move these up and down in elevation after, but I start here. I want to make sure that that's right, and this thing will stay in pitch, and it's not getting caught in the nut slots, So then, once that's done, I will usually get out a set of string gauges. You should do this when you have the strings off. If you don't know what the radius is, I highly recommend buying a set of these. These are string gauges, okay? And they're all marked right on them what the what each one is. I think mine go from 7.25 to 17 or 20, something like that. But as you can see, they're marked, okay? So what you do, find out what the radius is on your fretboard when the strings are off it, okay? And that can change. There is a compound radius on some necks where it'll change up in here. So just check it in a few places and, kind of split the difference. So then you want to take this, and this will go under you put it right between the strings, right? Come up under the strings like that. And you want not a lot of pressure, just see if they're all touching. If they're all touching, then you have the right radius. Okay? And another way to check it is set your thing on here, and that can kind of give you an idea as well. Okay? And I haven't intonated this guitar yet, but I do know this. On a Strat scale, you're going to see the first 3 saddles are going to be staggered like this. And these 3 saddles are going to be set in and staggered like that. It's almost like a lightning bolt. If it isn't, then you have issues with the scale length, okay? Now, that scale length can change too. If your tremolo thing is tipped ahead, you're changing the scale. That's just how it goes. So, you know, it is going to pivot here, but these can move, you know. If you tip this forward, it's going to change it, because if you think about it, when you push down on your tremolo arm, it tips this forward, and what does it do? It slacks the strings off, right? Okay, so that's something to keep in mind with a trem system. And, you know, like I said, normally you're going to see that staggered offset will be like this and like this. It's really exaggerated, but look at your Strats, and you're going to see that on pretty much every one of them. It's just the nature of it. It kind of sticks out, you know, after you mess with hundreds and hundreds of them, that kind of like sticks out to you after a while, and you're like, wow, them shouldn't be all straight, you know. That's not how it usually looks. That's just how I kind of figured it out over the years, but just looking at that right now, I know it's not intonated. So, and I know it's not because I ran the saddles ahead to tighten the 3 screws to the trem system. So there's that. That is something to check, though. I didn't know if they loosened. I've never had it happen on any of mine. I just don't think they were tightened properly from the factory. So it is something to look at, you know. While you have the strings off, just kind of move the saddles. You can flip the saddles on their sides and get in between them and check them out. So other than that, you know, it's really not that tough. And, you know, I always check the action here at the first fret and just kind of push down on the strings. It shouldn't be too high. A lot of guys will hold it at the 3rd and then just tunk on it, and you'll hear this little pingy sound. And if you don't, then it's too low, okay? And if these are too low in the nut saddles, they're gonna buzz, okay? If they're too high in the nut saddle, this will happen though. When you're playing first position chords down here, the string height is too far off the fretboard, and you have to push them down too far, and it'll sound like the guitar's out of tune. And, you know, it's throwing the intonation out. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. If you're having a lot of problems with if you play chords up here and they sound nice, you play first position and they sound out of tune, then look at the gap underneath each string. Make sure it's not too high. And you may have to adjust the slot in your nut there. That's all. It's not a big deal. So anyway, other than that, I really don't have to go any deeper on it. And I'm going to set this up for the action height that I like. I like mine pretty low. I mean, not too low, but I don't like it really high either. I don't want to work hard to play guitar. I just want it to be enough so if I bend a note, I can get my finger under it. If it's too low, sometimes that's not really good. So those are really the basics for me. But I did want to stress that, you guys, if your guitar is not staying in tune, tune your string up to pitch, bend it behind the nut on an acoustic or electric. Check that again. If it's out, then it's catching in the nut somewhere. And that will haunt you. I mean, it takes years to wear that out. You know, so eventually it'll stop doing that. And that's a lot of playtime. So you don't want that. You just want it in tune from day one. So something to check for sure. I've run into that literally hundreds of times, so just keep an eye on that, and should be in good shape. Look how thick the fretboard is on this guitar. It's crazy. It's quite a hunk of wood. It's a pretty neat little guitar, I must say. It's inexpensive, but I like it, and I'm going to play it some more once I get it all set up right. That definitely wasn't helping me, what was going on there with that loose, so we'll get it all back together and plug it in and see what it sounds like. I know it sounded good, and I did a demo on it when I first got it, but it's been months since I've heard it. I'm even going to peel the plastic off it, guys. I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna. It's time, right? You run into that so many times buying used guitars. I mean, some people I don't think know that there is plastic on there, and I think there are guys that just don't want to pull it off. They want to play it and not scratch it, and then, you know, when they sell it, they peel it off. I get it, but whatever. In any case, I'm getting it off there, and I'll tell you why, because if you leave that stuff on there too long, you'll have a hard time to get it off. You'll be taking it off in little crumbs, trust me. Okay, folks, well, thanks again for watching. I'm going to keep peeling here. Looks like it's going to be a while. I'll have to pull the knobs off and stuff, too. Okay, be good, folks. Thanks again. Okie doke.